Unfortunately, Survival's Hunter time to shine is gonna come at a later video. Because now we have to talk about some news. Some things that happened in the last couple of days and some things that are happening now that you should be aware of. Of course, you should have already been aware of all of this, but you are like babies, you want to be spoon-fed, so let's start the spoon-feeding. Now, making waves around the world, we can start with an insane announcement. Incredible, really. The epitome of skill. In just 84 minutes, Progress cleared Naxxrama's world first kill of Kel'Thuzad in Classic WoW. Yes, indeed. Amazing. Incredible. Truly just like the good old days. So now all these 20-something, who were like 4 when Vanilla was out, can claim to have played Vanilla. Now, you have fulfilled your dream of a lifetime, now you can move on. Congrats. Now, on to better news. On to better days. Actually no, because this is something I pointed out a couple of videos ago. Gems. The gems from Legion and the gems from BFA. I said you should have probably gotten them just to get your Mythic 0 clear if you wanted to, hoping that they would have remained the same, but no, of course not. Literally as soon as people realized this, Blizzard just hotfixed them. From plus 18 main stat and plus 12 main stat, they have been nerfed to plus 7 and plus 6. Now it is very unlikely that any spec really is going to pick this main stat plus 7 over a secondary stat plus 16. So yeah, this was expected, it was predictable, it would have never made it live before raids. I guess it happened quicker than expected. I just hope that some of you didn't spend thousands of gold thinking they would have made a fortune on the auction house dealing with this thing, because this was like a suicidal business move, really. Now, Torghast. We have got some changes to Torghast. So amidst the complaints that also appeared in my videos, in my comments, rogues and warriors were amongst the most hit, particularly in general melee DPS classes without too many ways to self-sustain. Essentially the problem seems like the more you scaled up in damage taken, these type of specs did not have a way to cheat, did not have a way to gain massive amount of healing. Hybrid classes, hybrid specs have an easier way because they can gain Torghast powers that can give them heals thanks to their healing of specs, Druid, Shaman, even Shadow Priest, Paladin as well. Rogue and Warrior though were kind of screwed, so they've gotten buffed, particularly in their defensive Torghast powers. Way more ways for rogues to have access to their cloak, their evasion, their feint, and more effectiveness when they use Crimson Vial, which should make them more sturdy. Similar note for warriors. A couple of them to flat out increase their damage, and then one of them to make them basically immune to CC with a never-ending Berserker Rage and then the Ignore Pain synergy of Bladed Bulwark. Tell me if any of you playing rogues and warriors had troubles before this and then after these changes it's gotten better or not. Now there is another change to Torghast. None of you will have actually felt this if you have been going solo or even with 1 or 2 friends, because this change is going to be about 4 and 5 player groups. Essentially the problem was that this type of scaling was probably okay with having in mind a character with full conduits, a character with legendaries, a character with much more board power than right now. So when these happy little friends together as 5 went into Torghast without legendaries, with no conduits, basically nothing scaled up, they were getting bodied because the HP of the mobs would scale far too high and they just didn't have the damage, even with the Torghast power-ups. So now the HP of mobs in 4 and 5 player groups is going to be reduced. Again, tell me if any of you with at least 4 friends, yeah, right, with at least 4 friends, has actually noticed a difference with this change, with this hotfix. And this was all for Torghast for the last couple of days. Now, a very, very Blizzard-like change we have. That happened recently. I guess when this video is out, it will have happened like 12 hours ago. So the change, I said very Blizzard-like because this is very, very in line with how they move. So the change is this. Now you actually have increased chance of looting your legendary recipe, your patterns, based on the difficulty of the content. Now, we would have assumed this was already the case. Now, once again, Blizzard doesn't really tell us much about this. There is no WoW manual where you can go at the voice 6.2.4 legendaries, which tells you the drop rates. We don't know. But apparently, if you were clearing a normal dungeon, or an heroic dungeon, or a Mythic 0 dungeon, the chance was the same, no real difference. So with this hotfix now you will properly have an increased chance of looting your recipe from the boss you are targeting based on the difficulty. Now, I'm saying Blizzard-like change because we are 2 days into the new reset. So what this means is all those poor souls that just fully re-cleared all their mythic zeros come home the next day and they find themselves with this nice hotfix now that they are saved to all the mythic zeros. So it's a pretty dumb change, to be honest. This is something that should have happened before the reset, definitely, not after. First of all, how is it even possible that they didn't have legendary drop chances based on difficulty? That's already weird. But even then, being so late after the reset, you know, it's pretty annoying. It's pretty annoying because some people have already done their runs of Mythic Zeros, and now they have to go back into Heroics if they want to get a legendary right now. So that is a little bit annoying. Now, as for what's going on right now in the game. Now, what's happening right now is that if you have been a happy farmer, like me, you should have been, by now, by yesterday, you know, the start of the reset, more or less, you should have been ambivalent reputation with Venari. When you got to Tentative, she gave you the Rule 5 to get into Perdition Hold. Perdition Hold also is going to unlock you an extra weekly and also an extra daily. This means faster Maw. Faster clearing of the rares, the objectives, and capping the jailer attention so you can leave faster. Because of the bunch of weekly reputation you have gotten all at once, you have gotten very quickly close to the next jump in reputation. The 7,000 needed to go from Tentative all the way to Ambivalent. In Ambivalent rank, the exact same thing as Tentative will happen. You will get the 6th rule of Venari, Concealment is Everything, which is going to unlock the Beast Warrens. The Beast Warrens has been referred to me by my lawyers as fucking garbage. That's the technical term for this place. It is very large, way too many elites, and very few rares and events compared to the original main zone. So it's not a place you will want to go in very often. When do you want to go in this cursed place? Number 1, now you can also have a daily quest spawn there. You would rather not. You would rather want it in Perdition Hold, I think. But the real thing is that there's going to be another weekly. You already have done, I guess, a weekly, the Wrath of the Jailer. It's the thing you have seen popping up at every hour of the day. Seemingly, defeating the forces of the Jailer is always active, the boss is always spawning, and that's your weekly in the main zone. When you open up the Beast Warrens, you will get the second weekly, which is going to be the Hunt. Basically, same thing. You go there, you get your objectives to unlock the final boss of the Hunt. It can be a Shadowhound, a Death Elemental, a Soul Eater, and a Winged Soul Eater. Now, all of these have some special loot they can give, but the particular one, the real one you want to go after, is going to be the Shadowhound. This week, and in case you didn't know, NA and EU have the exact same things happening at the same time. It's not like the previous expansions, there are no different rotations or anything. Right now, this lockout, the Gorged Shadowhound is going to be the boss for this hunt. The reason why this is relevant is because the Gorged Shadowhound can drop the Maw-Sworn Soul Hunter, i.e. the mount for the Maw. Now you can try and die to go to floor 8 of the Twisting Corridors in Torghast to get your mount for the Maw. That's gonna take a while to get. So for now you can try your luck as soon as you can get into the Beast Warrens to take out this boss and loot the mount. As I mentioned, of course, it's a weekly, so you can't just farm the boss over and over and over until you get your mount. So if you wanted a goal for the week was to at least try to hit Ambivalent, so you can get into the Beast Warrens and try to get a kill on this dog to loot the mount. But now that we are done with the news of the day, the news of the last few days, we have to look at the future. What is in front of us? What's in front of us is Mythic Plus and Raids. Next week, we will have Heroic and then Mythic Plus capped at 6, because 6 is the last key which drops lower than Raid Gear. 197 item level. Of course, there is no way Blizzard was going to allow you to just farm Mythic Plus to get gear that you can trade in a raid, at least for the first week. And then in the second week won't matter because Mythic Plus gear cannot match Heroic item level anyways from this expansion. So, but the real thing that's coming close is going to be prediction time. It's going to be guessing time. We have held off talking about specs, talking about roles, talking about power levels for quite a while now, a few weeks since the expansion has launched and we've got other things to talk about. But getting close to the actual action, to the actual Mythic Plus season and the actual Mythic raiding, we have to start looking at how the specs are doing. how they are performing, how many of the specs have already started crying for a buff, how many of the specs are seething, calling for other specs to be nerfed. So this is what we will go over into in the next few days, together with our big numbers quiz game. Personally, my first 2 cents, which might change by the time any video is being made, is that Warrior is in a very bad spot and Havoc Demon Hunter is in a very bad spot. Warlock, particularly Destruction and Demonology for raids, are in a pretty bad spot, as well as the specs prime for a nerfing are going to be Unholy, Balance and Shadow Priest. That's the preliminary guesses. We will see later on. And the other thing related to this is preparation, right? For all of you who are planning to get into Mythic Plus, who are planning to get into raids, of course, preparation is a thing, not just in game, but out of the game. In the game, you have to get your character geared up. So how is the character doing? My character right now is 183 item level. It's missing a belt, basically, to be 184. And then the monk and the druid are in the low 70s, but they have an entire round of Mythic Zeros to do. What about you guys? The other part of this in-game is going to be consumables, flasks, potions, food, maybe even augment runes. As someone who queued up heroics with a Resto Shaman, a Brewmaster Monk and a Restoration Druid, I have 114 augment runes for me, so that's gonna last for a while. But then we also have the out-of-the-game preparation, the guides, the how to do certain bosses, what to do, the talents for your spec. Do you already know any of this? Can you even name me, right now, another quiz, for 74 points, can you even name all the 10 bosses in Castelnatria? Of course, there's gonna be plenty of time in the first week of Heroic and Normal to be able to get used to them, but then again, not everyone watching this video is going to be in a guaranteed week 1 ahead of the curve guild aiming for Mythic. Some people will take much longer to even clear Heroic in the first place, so not everyone is gonna have the same goals. Some people, some madmen, won't even raid to begin with, so imagine that. So tell me how your preparation is going. So as far as my videos, there will be videos, informative videos about Mythic Plus and about raids coming in the next week and the week after that, when the season actually starts with the fully open Mythic Plus and then Mythic raiding. They will be a little bit more in depth. I don't like to make these the other side guide, where I just go pack by pack and I say, this guy bad, this guy hurt, be careful, and then move on. Or this boss does this and this boss does this. I believe there are other content creators that have done better guides on this than I could anyways. So my point for making guides, for making knowledgeable videos about this, is going to be things like, when do you use your cooldowns in this key as a DPS, as a tank and as a healer? When can you expect a lot of damage to be coming in as a tank or as a healer? Same thing for a DPS. Which one of the abilities are useful to stun, interrupt, knockback, typhoon, dispel, the curse, offensive dispel? Which one of the skips can you go for? Which places are good to skip? Particularly in longer dungeons like Plaguefall. Those are the types of tips I am more interested into, because I believe the general guides have already been covered, as well as raid encounters is going to be the same thing. Rather than having another neutral guide about a boss, just listing the abilities, this one hurts, this one you have to dodge, I would rather make a guide about when is the best time for the DPS to use a DPS cooldown. How is my guild, how are the top guilds, for example, clearing the encounters, spreading their external cooldowns for their healers? How are they moving? When do you move? When do you dodge? When do you use your defensives? All these helpful tips for raid encounters, rather than a straight up step-by-step guide about the boss. So this is what is going to be next. See you guys sometime soon. I'm leaving. In the meantime, just wait, survival. Your time's gonna come.